Okay, so here we are looking at Moses writing autobiographically about his own vote during the voting window from 2590 from Adam to 2660 from Adam. And this is the central passage around which all the Bible will focus, because Moses' prayer here is totally about this business about voting in the 490. And Paul is going to play back to it specifically by referencing the actual aggregate syllable count here and here. I almost fell over when I saw Paul do that. And when I get back to Paul, you're going to see how he does it. So now let's go quickly through the translation. It's pretty straightforward, even in your English Bibles. But there's certain words that I need to explain because they're very pregnant words in the Bible, and especially in Hebrew. Okay. I've translated this clause, and it's close to what you'll have in your Bible. Cause us to rightly count our days, our hearts to get wisdom. Again, I'm matching the meter. This here, limnot, means to count. Okay? Yamnu, our days. This word here, ken, means rightly. Rightly. It's talking about how well you count. This is the problem Israel has today. She has lost her ability to count time. I covered that in part 10 of Yapping Most High. Her calendar is completely screwed up. She doesn't have the year right. She doesn't have the days right. Nothing. Okay, she's at least a week off, and that's because she's using lunar years, and God never uses lunar years in the Bible ever. He's always going by birthdays. So when she comes up with her own birthday, it's never right. Passover is supposed to celebrate Israel's own birthday, and it's never right. Well, if it's right by accident in some years. Because she's using lunar, she hits it like once every 7 years, once every 8 years, she might get it right. Okay? Cause us to rightly count our days. This is Moses' prayer during the voting period, because he knows he's voting. He knows how important this period is in history, because he is rightly counting his days. Okay? Chodah means cause to know. Right here. Chodah. So it's limnot, yamnu, ken, rightly, chodah. So in English you sort of read it backwards. Cause us to know, to count, rightly, our days. That's his prayer. Because Israel doesn't know what time it is. And he knows she's not going to know. Just like she doesn't know today. Messiah's come and left the building, and she doesn't know that because she can't count the time. Alright? Israel's job is to count time. That's why Israel was called out. And he knows that. Cause us to rightly count our days. Why? Because his parents knew that. Because he's coming from a line, from Adam. They were always aware of this time grant system. So they were always counting their days. They knew about the deadlines for the world to continue. Theirs was the line on which it depended. It came down to Abram. Okay? Abram won the covenant to continue time in the very year it was due to run out. So he taught his kids, they taught their kids. And, obviously, not all the kids listened. But Moses listened, and he's voting. Even to leave Egypt. Okay? And he's busy voting in the wilderness during these 70 years. Okay? This is what he's saying. Cause us to rightly count our days, our hearts to get wisdom. The word forget here really means to enter. La, na, vo, la navi. And it's a play on prophet. I cover that in the tandem videos in 19 through 21 PS90 playlist. And, I'll leave you to watch those videos if you want. But it's a play on prophet. In other words, if you get the word of God in you, you will be able to rightly count. You will be caused, chodah, you will be caused to know. And then you will get wisdom. And the word for wisdom is a very famous word in Judaism, chakmah. They might say chokmah, because Jews mix up the A's and the O's. Okay? Chakmah. Put a little English on the H, so it sounds like a KH. Chachma. Okay? I'm translating that get. NIV translate it with gain. Some more silly translations say, that we may present to you a heart of wisdom, as if you could earn your own wisdom. Yeah, right. Okay? Hakma is only something God can produce. And yes, it does mean wisdom. Greek translation is Sophia or Sunesis usually. So this is Moses' prayer. Cause us to know what time it is. Okay? And that ends at syllable 238. That will be very important. Notice how it's 14. Because it's talking about perfect. It's talking about God. Okay, it's 14 syllables for that reason. Okay, but Moses knows we're not going to do that. Okay, that ends at syllable 252 in Psalm 90, which Paul tracks. Do return, O Lord. How long? Bring comfort to your servants. Okay, return. Most important word in Judaism. And it's pronounced Shuvah. Shuvah. Shuvah Yehovah. This the sacred tetragrammaton, usually spelled as Yehovah in the Bible, not Yehovah. Ad matai. How long? Okay. Must we wait is, I put that in there so you'll know what the sense is. But, even in English we have that. How long? How long? We don't finish the sentence because we're in a hurry. How long? Ad matai. And then this word here, bring comfort to your servants, is a direct reference to the flood. Nachem. In Genesis 6, it says that it repented the Lord that he had made man. That's in the King James. Okay. It means that he's saying that the making man turned out to be a bad thing, as if he didn't know. It's anthropopathic. Okay. But it also means to bring comfort, to have compassion. So the Lord had compassion on what he made of man. So that's why he announces the deadline that we saw back in 1536. Okay? See? That's Genesis 6. That's the last place Nechem is used. Okay? So Moses is talking back to the flood here. And so will all the other Bible writers. Nechem. It's usually translated repent. But it doesn't just mean that. It means to have compassion, to bring comfort. And so that's what Moses is praying for right here during the voting period, which is the first 490 and the second 2,000 years. Okay? Bring comfort to your servants. Okay? Nachem. Well, cha, na, chem. Chanechem. Okay? Bring comfort. And it's servants, plural. Okay. So then it goes on. We're still covering what Moses is saying during this period. Okay. Fill us. Fill us by morning. This is shabenu, and it really means to fill your tummy. Fill your tummy with food with the result that you're satisfied. And you'll see English Bibles translate that as satisfy us. And that's a good translation. I just didn't have enough syllables. Okay? And Isaiah's going to be playing back to that in Isaiah 53:11. He will see, will be satisfied. It's the same word. Isaiah's going to be talking back to this because how do you fill your servants? How do you bring comfort? By bringing the Messiah. And the Messiah is on the cross and he himself is satisfied because as he's paying for sins, he sees the result. That's why Isaiah is so elliptical in Isaiah 53:11. Yireh, Yizbah, is how it's worded in Hebrew. He will see, be satisfied, is really what it says. And, English Bibles fill in other words that aren't there to make it sound majestic, I guess. I really wish they wouldn't do that. Okay, may we shout in triumph. You might have something in your English Bibles like rejoice. No. This is a victory shout. Naranina. Okay? Roni is the actual verb. Okay, Roni. It's used in Isaiah 54:1. It means to shout in triumph as a result of winning a war victory. Okay. Ne, ra, ne, na. Okay. It's used in the song Havana Gila too. It means to shout in triumph as a result of winning some major war victory. Okay, so it isn't rejoice, like bringing in the sheaves. It's not like that. It's, oh boy, you know, like after a NASCAR race or after a football game where everybody jumps up and down and throws champagne or beer. That's what it means. Okay, and then be glad, that's also too tame, but I didn't have enough syllables. Nishmacha, that's also in the Havana Gila song. Okay, Niranina Nishmacha. Okay, and that there's nothing wimpy about these words. Be glad. It's like you're jumping up and down. You just won a major victory. You worked hard for it, you know, and it didn't look like it was going to happen. And so you're jumping up and down and throwing things and all kinds of stuff like that. There's nothing churchy about it at all. Okay, it's war whooping. Okay, so going back, we'll read the translation so far. Cause us to rightly count our days, our hearts to get wisdom. Do return, O Lord. See, he's voting in the affirmative word. Return to us. He knows that the time is almost up because he knows how to count his days. He knows that the 490 years is going to be up from Joseph. 6 years after the voting period ends. So how long? How long? He knows how long. That's why he's saying it. How long? Do return. It's time to come. Come on. Time for us to get out. Bring comfort to your servants. Now, at this time, did Moses know that God was going to use him to lead out? I don't know. Because when God starts talking to him, he sure seems reticent to do it. Okay? Then, fill us by morning with your gracing love. Gracing love. This is chesed. Chesed right here. Chasedeka is the actual Hebrew word in the passage. Gracing love is too wimpy a word, but I don't know how to translate it better. Okay, they usually translate loving kindness. It's a fierce love. It's a possessive love. It's the love that David is talking about at the end of Psalm 23. Pursuing me with love. Okay, it's that kind of aggressive love. And I could say aggressive love, but gracing love, I've only got 3 syllables. Okay, so if you can get a better translation, tell me what it is and I'll put it in here. Okay, fill us in the morning with your gracing love. May we shout in triumph and be glad, even all our days. Okay, that's Psalm 90:14. Okay, and then we come to the most important verse in a way in the Bible. This is where Isaiah and Paul and everybody gets their meter. And of course, Moses is using the very same meter because he's talking autobiographically. English translation goes, gladden us per the days you burdened us, for the same years we've seen evil. Now, that means that he's asking God to equate the number of bad days and the number of good days. So, look at this. Let me pull this up. Okay. You got, here it is, the second 2100. The second 2100. So Adam through and until Abraham is 2100 years. Abraham is actually 54 years early. So to balance time, to give the same number of days to the Jews as to the Gentiles, there is supposed to be 2100 years going on in history for the Jews. And that 2100 years ends right here. 2100 and 2100 is 4200. This was when the millennium was supposed to occur. I'm going to be talking more about that, but I just preview of coming attractions. When Moses is saying, gladden us for the days that you burdened us, he knows doggone well that time is supposed to end here. Everybody knew that. It was 2100 years for the Goyim, and now it's supposed to be 2100 years for the sons of Abraham. And at the end of that time, Messiah is supposed to come. Now, there was no Israel as a nation yet, but it was promised. It was promised after 400 years of slavery, and Moses is able to count his days, so he knows that the 400 years is almost up. Moses knows. Okay. Oh, wait a minute. Moses knows that, whoops. Yeah, there we go. Wait a minute. Moses knows that the time is almost up. And because he knows, that's why he's praying. Daniel will be doing the same thing. Okay? Moses knows that the 400 years is almost up. Moses knows that Joseph's time grant is almost up. That's why he's talking. That's why he's saying this. Hi, he's reminding God of his own contract of the 2100 years. And he knows that he's into it. You know, that we're already into it. Okay? Hello? It's time for the people to be delivered. The 400 years is almost up. Okay, so gladden us now. For the same years we've seen evil. Now what's really clever about this, that's why I had to list it two ways in the Hebrew, is that the way I think Moses actually did it is he's using two words, each clause of 6 syllables each. 666. But remember, 6 is the number of man. Okay? And he's troubling it for Trinity. Okay? Because Trinity, you know, there's no point in being a man if you don't have Trinity taking care of you and running you and being with them and all that. Okay? So this is why I think he's doing it that way. And I cover the translation and why I did the translation this way in the Psalm 90 playlist between around 21 PS 90. Okay, so this is a prayer for an equating of days, which is based on God's own rule for time, beginning for the time for the Jews, and all time was supposed to end at 4200. And of course Christ comes here, and 4200 is here. So God met his promise. Okay? God met his promise. And he met his promise just as Moses prayed it. Of course, God created the 490 plus 70 plus equating 490 time unit of 1050 before Moses even prayed this. And of course, that's why Moses is praying it, because he knows about God's rules for time, because he can rightly count his days. See all that wordplay? And that's why it's so important to know the meter, because Isaiah is going to match the meter in equally balanced paragraphs. Okay? Where is it? Isaiah, right here. Have a look. Equally balanced paragraphs. This is Isaiah 53 mapped. Okay, I just want you to see how Psalm 90:15 is being met. Okay, here we got a 42. We got a 42 here. Wait a minute, so I can get it to show. This is 42. Okay, this is 42. Alright, he's matching exactly. And the question that I had is, why is he doing it this way? And, you know, I'll cover those answers later. But, see, everything is gladness according to the day. See, gladness per the days. On the left-hand side, upper left, Psalm 90:15, gladness per the days you burdened us. Okay, well, here we go. Equating of days. Equating of days. That's the divine decree in 42. Equating of days, 56 and 56, 28 and 28. You see why Isaiah is doing this? He's talking back to Psalm 90:15. And Paul is going to do the same thing. Okay, and all of them are balancing to this point, right here at the bottom of the screen, where the big green line, millennium, should have begun here, 42nd hundred year from Adam. All of them are talking to that point, because at that point, this is realized. 90:15 is realized, because there have been 2100 years. At this point, there would have been 2100 years for the Jews and 2100 years for the Gentiles. Time can now end, which is when it was scheduled to end, had the Jews accepted Christ. And we wouldn't be here. There wouldn't be a church. Okay? That's the whole point. So, That's how Psalm 90:15 closes, and that's why our boy here, Isaiah, picks it up at Psalm 90 in the prophetic voting period, which we'll cover in the next video. But this is why Isaiah is using these kind of meters, okay, that they're doubled like this. He's talking straight back to the prayer, showing how it's getting fulfilled by God, just as Moses prayed it. Same number of years, same number of days. That you saw evil, you're going to see good. And that's how Moses closes his testimony. And that's why, that's why this period, you know, I'm trying to be dramatic. It's never going to work that way. That's why this period ends with Moses' vote, leaving Egypt. Here's the voting period in which Moses is voting, the verses you see in the upper portion of the screen. And that's why there was an Exodus, which is occurring exactly 490 years after Joseph. 490 years after Joseph is enslaved. See, 2176 is when he's enslaved. And 2666 is when Moses is caused to lead the Exodus. And at this point, Israel becomes the sole carrier of time. That's Deuteronomy 32:8. Moses won a 490 as a result of his voting here. But Moses didn't want to be God's mouthpiece. Twice God offered, it's in Numbers 14, I want to say. Twice God offered to wipe out Israel and just start over with Moses. And Moses said, no, start over with the people. What will the unbeliever say if you wipe out the people and start over with me? That'll look like God can't keep his promise. Yeah, so now Israel is the repository of time. Time now depends on Israel, Deuteronomy 32:8. And so now, time will only exist if Israel votes. So, that's why we now get to the very pregnant Psalm 90:16 and 17, which was the period that Israel almost didn't vote. And we'll cover that in the next video.